Hello, everybody. My name is Shelby Muso. I am here today from Granite Advance to talk about accessibility and the college process. So I've got a presentation ready for you. I'm going to go ahead and cue that up. All right. So you should be seeing the slides now. Once again, my name is Shelby Muso. I am a social worker and I am the Director of Nonprofit and Agency Partnerships here at Granite Advance. Thank you to the Parent Information Center for inviting me to come and speak to you all about accessibility and applying to college. And first, a little bit about Granite Advance, who we are. So we are a nonprofit organization. We've been around for about 60 years. Some of you might know us as the NEAF Network or New Hampshire Higher Education Assistance Foundation Network. We rebranded last year and, to become Granite Advance, and we brought a few different sides of our organization all under one roof, one name to demonstrate our commitment to the Granite State. And our mission is simple. It's to support New Hampshire students and their families in navigating their education and career pathways. We do that by offering free career and higher education counseling and free resources. We also offer funding support in the form of loans, grants, and scholarships. And on the Find Your Direction side of things, which is helping students navigate their pathway, we provide knowledge and guidance on the education and career planning process. So we have a team of outreach specialists who are all over the state. And our office is in Concord, but we've got people all over, and we're open access. We serve students of all ages, all backgrounds, all pathways. There are no eligibility requirements to come and work with us. And, we really love connecting directly with communities and with students and families, but we can't do this work alone. So we have partnerships with school counselors and higher education institutions, as well as community-based organizations like the Parent Information Center, since those are the folks that are already doing amazing work with New Hampshire students and families. And we're here to support, add extra resources, and fill any gaps that those folks may have. So, we are professionals in the college and career access space. We also provide financial aid support, and we are here to help anybody who would like a little more information about navigating their pathway. One of the resources that I'd like to highlight today is our free career assessment. So we have partnered with a tool called UScience, which is available online and free to New Hampshire residents through Granite Advance. And what UScience does is it measures a student's interests as well as their aptitudes. What are their natural strengths? And combines them to demonstrate what a student's best fit career may be. And what we really love about UScience is that it's very strengths focused. It helps students understand what their natural aptitudes are and gives them language around how to talk about them, which for us is something that we've noticed a lot of young people or even adults don't have, right? We kind of talk about what you need to learn or how you should grow. UScience celebrates what you're naturally good at. And then it can help students understand by combining those two things what are best fit careers. And then we'll also drill down into those careers to help understand why are they a good fit? What is that career actually like? What's a day in the life? What are the salary expectations? What are the demand for the job in the next few years? And then also, what education do you need to get there? And so then we kind of help close that loop of understanding if I want to achieve this goal, here is how long I would need to go to school, here's what I would need to study, and we take it from there. So there's a middle school version and a version that I like to call High School Plus, which is great for high school students and adult learners. And again, it's just a really great way for students to kind of wrap their head around what their strengths are and what their career options are. And a final note about the services that we offer on the Fund Your Future side. So we do offer a Granite Advance private student loan, and every dollar from that loan is recycled back into our free services and scholarships and grants for New Hampshire students. And there's also an interest rate reduction for New Hampshire students who are residents or attending college here in New Hampshire. So again, really looking out for Granite Staters here and showing that we are invested in their own future. And I'm also pleased to share that our scholarship program keeps growing. We gave out $500,000 in our scholarship this year, and we're looking to only keep that number increasing. But enough about Granite Advance. Let's talk about accessibility and the college process. So one of the resources that we offer in this space is our Accessibility Insider. So we have a suite of insider guides. They are physical booklets that are available, in print, but they're also available as PDFs on our website, which is graniteadvance.org. And this guide in particular is geared specifically for students with disabilities and their families. So it's kind of a step-by-step, here's everything that you would need to know about how to navigate this process. And what we love also is that because it's all written out, families can go through it at their own pace. So we love when families have one of our insiders, they read through it, they think about some questions that they need some extra help with, and then they make an appointment with us and we're able to talk them through those next steps. Excuse me. So there are a few questions that you can ask while preparing for a post-secondary education journey as a student and family working with a disability. And we really recommend asking these questions even before you are applying to school. So there's the first step in the college process, which is figuring out kind of what the criteria are in building your list. And when we talk about your list, we mean the list of schools where a student will apply. And for every student, the list of criteria that they use to build their list are different. They're unique because every student's journey is unique. And there are things like location, size, what majors are available, what activities are available, what are opportunities for research or internships, career supports. But for a student with a disability or accessibility needs, there are additional questions that can and most likely should be used while building your list. Because what we want to see is a list that only has schools on it where a student will be successful. So if a school is not structured for a student to have education success, then it shouldn't really be on the list because it doesn't matter if a student will get accepted or not. If they're not going to be successful, then there's no point in taking the time to apply. And these are all things that you can find out ahead of time. What I will say is that every college is a little bit different in the accommodations and accessibility services that they offer. Every school is held to ADA standards, but past that, it's kind of up to them of how much support they provide, which is why asking these questions ahead of time is so important. So when you're thinking about who to ask these questions to, there are two places that you can go. First, every school will have some kind of office like the Office of Accessibility Services, the Office for Student Disability Support. They call it something different at each school. You might have to do a little Googling to figure out what it's called, but most of them will have a contact page where you can reach out to them directly and ask these questions again, even before you apply. But if for whatever reason that isn't working out, there's always the admission office. And they're the ones who are really trained to speak to prospective students and families and should be able to answer these questions. And if they can't answer these questions, or if the answers rather are not what you were hoping to hear, then again, that's something that you'll know ahead of time, and maybe that school shouldn't be on your list. So a great first few questions are, if I need accommodations, when should I start that process? Is that something that happens during the application process, when I'm enrolling, when I'm selecting classes, or kind of after the semester gets going? When does that start? And what types of documentation does the school need? Again, every school is going to do this a little bit differently. Sometimes they might just want to see, a written note. Maybe they want a doctor's note. Maybe they just want to talk to the student and they don't need proof. It really all depends. And can I meet with the college staff who work with students with disabilities before I enroll? So, you can always reach out to them with questions, but some schools will actually let you sit down and have a meeting with their accessibility office to discuss your options even before you have fully enrolled. Then thinking about course load and graduation time. So can students with disabilities get a reduced course load? Is that something that's allowed, or are they held to kind of the same standards of part-time and full-time? And if they are allowed to get a reduced course load, how does that affect things like graduation time and financial aid? Because a lot of financial aid programs will require a student to be enrolled full time. So if they're taking a reduced course load and that doesn't count as full time, will that reduce their financial aid options? Again, maybe it will, maybe it won't. It depends on the school and it depends on the financial aid program. And can students with disabilities register early? This is a great question for students who know that maybe they don't function best in the morning. So an 8 a.m. class might be really challenging for them because they need a little extra time to get going for the day. If they are not given an allowance to register early, there's a possibility they could get stuck with multiple 8 a.m. classes. And again, that's just not setting that student up for success. And that's one of many examples, right? You know best what your student needs to be successful and kind of what are those different classes. So if that's something that's super important to having first pick of classes, then again, something to think about when building your list. If your student is considering on-campus housing, living in a dorm, what are the options? And how does having a disability impact those options? So whether they need, a room with extra space to navigate around, or maybe they would function better with a single room because they really don't do well with a lot of distractions and kind of need that time separate from other people. Will that allow for that accommodation, or do those rooms not really exist on campus? What are the options? Next, what are the student groups that are available? Because as we all know, forming your niche, right? Finding your tribe at college is so important and can really make a big difference in student success. So are there special groups to help students with disabilities network, find their way around campus, and actually find each other? Or is it kind of on them to seek out friendships and support? Are there student leadership or mentoring programs with students with disabilities? Again, we're thinking about how many formal structures are there already in place at this school so that a student with a disability could kind of slide right in and fit into a community that is already built to support them. And then finally, support services. So every school will have a tutoring center, a writing center, something like that, that all students can access. But what are the specific supports that are available, and how do students access them? Is it kind of a free-for-all that any student can access it? Or are there preferences given to students who maybe have a higher need for those services? And then, of course, are there specific services for students with my disability? So again, every school will have a little bit of a different process here. And if there are specific services that your student will benefit from having, you can ask if they are available and how they are accessed. And now let's talk a little bit about the application, because let's think about, kind of in the college process. So you've asked all of these questions, you've built your list, you know where you're going to apply. Wonderful. The next step is to actually fill out that application. So there is nothing saying that a student has to disclose their disability when applying or even when they're enrolled in school. The student never has to say anything, and the college and professors can't ask. But there are a few pros, a few advantages to disclosing a disability in your application and beyond. First, it can help the admissions team who's reviewing the application understand why something is particularly difficult for your student. And it can also explain certain points on a transcript. So for example, if your student was, went on a new medication spring semester junior year, and it really didn't work for them, and they had a really tough semester and their grades reflect that. Knowing why that is can really help an admission team evaluate the student from a holistic perspective. It doesn't mean that they're going to change their application criteria. The student still has to meet all the same criteria as any other student, but it can help the admission team understand why that happened and why, a student may be successful in the future in a way that isn't reflected from their high school transcript. And to be honest, we give the same guidance to students who have had any kind of disruption or significant challenge or barrier in their education, whether they had a long-term illness or if they had a certain family situation where it impacted their school life. This happens a lot. And again, it won't necessarily mean that the admission team will evaluate them differently, but it helps to give them a bigger understanding as they evaluate the student from a holistic perspective. And remember, navigating education and career spaces with a disability or accessibility need has a lot of strengths to it too. It demonstrates adaptability, that your student can navigate those spaces and find ways to make it work for them. And it also demonstrates resilience. And guess what? Those qualities are hugely important to admissions teams because they really set students up for success in college. Every college student has to learn how to be adaptable and resilient because it's such a huge transition no matter who you are or where you're going to school. So if a student has already had experience in doing that, that increases their chances for success and it might increase their chance for admission. And then once they're in college, we need to talk about self-advocacy because one of the biggest changes for students with a disability from high school to college is that the formalized structure support does not exist in the same way in college. There are no case managers, there are no IEPs, there are no 504s. Depending on the school, there might be other plans that can be put in place, but it's really up to the student and their personal support system to advocate for those services. Again, going to the Office of Accessibility or Disability Services, explaining what your needs are and advocating for them. In some cases, that office will then help students navigate the other aspects of college life, but in others, it still might be up to the student to speak to each individual professor and explain why they need extra time or whatever it may be. And of course, college is a time of discovery and growing independence for all students. So increasing your self-advocacy skills is something we talk about regardless of the population, because that's a big part of what college is all about. And that is actually a really beautiful part of college too, is that it can be a wonderful place to bridge the journey from high school, which is very structured, lots of inherent supports, things like that, into adulthood. College can be that middle ground of learning how to navigate your schedule, having more free time, maybe learning how to manage your own meals and your school time and your laundry in an environment that isn't quite the real world, right? It's still safe and structured and, maybe a safer, easier place to explore those skills and learn what it's like to navigate the world on your own or with less support than you had in the K-12 system. So college can be a really great time to step out of one's comfort zone and build skills that will set them up for a lifetime of success. And that's all I have for today. So thank you for your time. Again, my name is Shelby. You can reach out to me directly at smuso@graniteadvance.org. Or if you'd like to get in touch with any of our team members, please feel free to contact our main line at findyourdirection@graniteadvance.org. You can find all of our contact information, resources, and more at graniteadvance.org. Thank you.